All right, 3 biggest obstacles to stopping drinking alcohol. That's what we're going to talk about today. This is all from personal experience. It's from my coaching clients. It's from our community forum over on Habits V2, and from a lot of the comments that I've been reading on YouTube. And mostly I can reduce these obstacles after you stop drinking alcohol to people, environment, and mind. And we're briefly going to look at all 3, and then I'm going to talk about what you can do at the end of the video. Just as a brief overview, people, we're talking about people in the terms of the ones that you can, that you are directly in contact with, and then everyone else. Your environment, again, we're talking about the environment that you have direct contact with, and then everywhere and everything else. And in terms of your mind, it's your mind, and traditionally, if we want to split it into 2 things, we can talk about the conscious and the subconscious, right? Now, if you want some help to stop drinking alcohol, we have our quick start preparation guide, which is down below. This is part of the Habits V2 program. It's just if people don't want to take our full 15-day part of the program, they can take this, which is less than an hour, and it basically gives you the general idea of what we're talking about. It gives you clarity about where you are, clarity about where you're going to go, gives you confidence that you can do this, and as I've said all along in these videos, if I can do it, you can do it. And our aim is to give you the courage to step across that line, and to give you the courage in your ability so that you go, yes, I can do this, and I've got the tools that are necessary to do this, right? Obviously, the 15-day part of the program that we've got, you know, there's a lot more in-depth stuff that will take you across that line and get you a lot more ready to step across the line than less than an hour. But it's the reason why we made this is just for people who, a big component of the 15 days that we've got is to reduce the alcohol as well. And some people already want to stop drinking alcohol. That's where I was when I stopped in January of 2013. I just wanted to stop. I wasn't willing to wait any length of time. So that's where I was. So let's get on with this. The first thing we'll talk about is people. Like I say, this is something that is the least controllable part of your journey, people. Because they have got their own minds, they've got their own ideas about life, they've got their own things that they want to do, and their own ideas about you in their life. They've got their own stories about you. They've got their own narrative, I should say. That's probably a better way of saying it. That they, you know, you're a part of their lives in the way that they think you are, right? So once you step outside of that narrative, then they're going to have problems with that. I think this is an obstacle sometimes because we are sociable. We're a social species. We like to be with each other. We like to listen to others. We don't want to be ostracized. You know, we want to be with our friends. We want our friends to stay our friends. We want to have fun. And a lot of the fun that we have in life involves other people, right? So when we're talking about people, we're talking about those who are closest to you, and they have the greatest influence on you, and you can have the greatest influence on them if you can convince them that it's in their best interests to help you, that they can really be a great help towards you and towards your journey. So it's really want to try and get them on your side, right? And again, this is going to depend not only on the narrative and their own narrative, their own story that they tell themselves about you and who you are in their lives, but it's going to depend very much on their motivations. Are they motivated to help you, or are they motivated to see you falling back? And this particularly when we're talking about friends, this is one of the criteria that you should use to separate your friends out in there, you know, to see who's going to help you and who's going to support you and who is not. And the ones that are not going to support you, if they're going to hinder you in your journey, or, you know, deliberately try to sabotage your journey, then they've no place in your life. And then we've got everyone else who, you know, there's not much influence going on either way. The next part of this is with the environment. And again, you know, this is more controllable for you than the people in your life to a certain degree. I think it's an obstacle because, you know, we live in the environment. The people that we care about are in our environment. Alcohol is everywhere. It's commonly accepted as a normal part of our environment. So that's an issue that we have to try and get over in our minds more than anything else, but we'll talk about that in a while. And you must be in your environment, right? There's no way of getting out of your environment, right? You have to live somewhere, right? So whatever it is, I mean, unless you move to the moon, or unless you move to a private island, or unless you move to somewhere that is so isolated and you get your food delivered and you're not really bothered by the outside environment anymore, but that's not a pretty good life, hey? So we have to break it down into your direct environment, the one that you control, and then everywhere else. So let's talk about your direct environment first of all. You control, and it's got a diminishing aspect to this depending on the variables that can come into this, but you control things like your home, your car, maybe your office to a certain degree. You can control where you go. So if you're going out for a walk in the morning, you can control where you walk, avoiding things in that sense. You can control, if you're driving to work, you can control where you're driving and how you get to work, so you're avoiding certain things. Like I said, there's a diminishing aspect to this. So in your home, for instance, there may be people in your home who are sharing your home and sharing your life, but they have opposite goals to you. So maybe they don't want to stop drinking alcohol. Maybe they want to have alcohol in the house. So maybe that's an issue that you have to deal with. That's certainly what I dealt with in the beginning. But Esther did her utmost in other ways to say, well, even though I'm going to have wine in the house, I'll keep it apart from you and I won't drink it in front of you. So that was a good thing. And then there's everywhere else, right? So in general, you don't have much influence over stuff that's happening outside of yourself. There's going to be huge triggers in your environment. I mean, just think about the pub, for instance. The pub is a place of massive triggering. Your triggers can come from anywhere, from mostly from your thoughts, so your reaction to what you're thinking up here. But think about your senses, that you walk into a pub and there is the sounds, the sights, the smells, the what you touch, that tactical part of things. So all the senses are involved in triggering you off. It's designed to get you to drink. It's designed to get you to stay there. It's designed for people to continue drinking more and more and more. That's the pub. That's probably the biggest triggering environment that you're going to get as a drinker, right? Even bigger than the off license. The off license is one. There's certain areas you can drive to work, and maybe everywhere you drive to work there is a big billboard for whatever brand of beer that you like. Maybe that's just a fact and you can't avoid that. So there are going to be issues that you can deal with. But in general, we're talking about things that in the next, in your mind, this is where you've got the most control. So that's the third area, is your mind. Like I say, everything else, the people in your life, the environment in your life, none of that matters if you control your mind. I think that this can be a big obstacle in people, because your mind controls everything. What you think about controls everything in your life. It controls everything that you do, right? How you respond to things, how you act in response to something, how you what your attitude is to certain things, how you are going to say to yourself, well, yeah, with the stories that you tell yourself, the narrative that you tell yourself, your mood, your emotions, your mindsets. These are all things that interact with, that respond to the outside things in a different way. If you respond in a negative way, then you're going to have a negative outcome, and that's the only way to look at this. So we can talk about this, the conscious and the subconscious. We're talking about basically dealing with conscious decisions. We're talking about a lot of the stuff is how you consciously frame things, about the conscious mindsets that you set up for yourself, right? The conscious way, that the mental tools that you use consciously in order to deal with things in the short term and the long term, in order to try and make sense of what's happening, in order to try and have a coherent plan, and to stick to that plan, and to maybe change as you grow. All of those kind of things happen in a conscious mind. But there is also the subconscious, and the subconscious is huge. What goes on underneath the surface. Think about I think one of the best analogies for this is the iceberg. and what you see on the top is only a fraction of what's going on underneath the surface. And that's the same way here. Your conscious mind is what you see on the top, and everything else is under the surface. And when you're dealing with consciousness, you're talking about habits. You're talking about this deep learning. You're talking about your experience in life, the knowledge that you have. A lot of that knowledge, you know, think about memory. You know, one of the things that I said in one of my previous videos was, and this is something that I found early in the journey, was that I started remembering things that I hadn't thought about in a long time, or I had forgotten, that just weren't there, that I didn't think about, you know, that just weren't there before. And all of a sudden these things start popping up, and I think, you know, geez, remember that, you know. So it's like you're storing everything that's going on in your subconscious mind, and it's all there for your access. I presume that the only stuff that is not there is the stuff that happens, you know, during a blackout. You know, when you have an alcohol blackout, you know, it's like when you're fast asleep, you don't know what's going on around you. So that kind of stuff is not going in. Maybe it is, I don't know. But we're talking about all this stuff, right? And all these habits, and all your deep learning, and your experience, and your values, and your principles, and all that kind of stuff. And the only way that you can change these things is to bring this to the surface, and you do that through your short-term framing and your mindsets, and, you know, these tools that you use consciously in order to try and make sense of what's going on underneath to some degree. I mean, we're never going to understand it to a massive degree, but there you go. So what do you do? How do you overcome these barriers? I think the first thing to understand is that this is all a mind thing. You know, that your mind is your ultimate tool, it's your ultimate weapon, it's your ultimate magic bullet, in the sense of that you either control the situation itself, or you control how you respond. And also to understand that the truth, your truth, is inside of you, right? The things that are going to help you to deal with yourself and your life, you can only find. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have the best therapy, the best therapist. No, that's it can only guide you in the sense of trying to dig down and find your own solutions and your own answers to your own problems. Because every person is very unique, and you know, the uniqueness is in how you think and how you think about life, you know, just how you think in general. So it's not so much what you believe, it's how you believe it. You know, you can believe in something, I can believe in the same thing as you, but we differ in how we believe that, you know, and it makes a big difference in how you're going to think and how you're going to respond to things. So there was a great quote from, I used to think it was from, well, I got it from Viktor Frankl, but apparently Nietzsche said it before, but I'll always say Frankl because that's where I read it from in the first place. And that was, if a man has a big enough why, he'll put up with anyhow. And that comes down to the meaning in your life. If you've got a good meaning towards which you are, or the meaning in life, this is why you're doing things. If you have meaning in your life, if that is your goal in life, is to always strive for personal meaning, then that trumps everything else. It trumps happiness, it trumps everything else in life. So meaning over happiness, right? So in this video we talked about basically my personal experience, talking to my clients and talking to you know, people that I've associated with over the last 10 years to do with alcohol, before and after as well, in terms of what I think are the three biggest obstacles, and those are people, the environment, and your mind. And all three of these things can get you into big, deep trouble. But I think all three of these things can be a great tool. I mean, if you can get people on your side, if you can really outthink and outsmart the people in your life and the environment in your life just by using your mind, then you're going to get a long way. You know, controlling what you can control in life, and then controlling how you respond to everything else, and then, you know, understanding that meaning is at the bottom of everything. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Take good care of yourself. The next video, by the way, if you want to watch another video, is the simplicity of stopping alcohol. I'll leave that up here, I think. Take care of yourself. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.